All right, we are live here now. This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com with the much requested interview finally happening. Former
Uh-oh.
WWE Tag Team Champions as the natural disasters with Earthquake. He's actually the uncle of Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes, brother-in-law of Jerry Sags
Yes.
and Dusty Rhodes as well.
Sure.
So
Well, that's
that's
my
quite
brother-in-law.
amazing.
Yeah, my brother-in-law. I miss him. And godfather to my oldest boy, which is Berkeley, and he works for WWE now. Does television production and trained with a ref. Trains a ref at FCW.
And of course, the Shockmaster, Tugboat, Typhoon, a lot of other names that we might get into.
Too many, yeah. I just gave Nick a new one tonight when I worked in Oregon. I says Hercules Haggerty. Oh, I just heard that not too long ago.
Well, it's good that you've been given other chances at gimmicks too, because it shows you're a good person. Because sometimes they'll just give up on somebody.
Well, they ask, all the time, which is your favorite gimmick, And I'm like, my favorite gimmick? All of them are. That's what the business is all about. If you're given an opportunity, like you were talking about, Hannibal, if you're given the opportunity, take advantage of it. Dusty always used to preach that all the time. And the gimmick goes all the way to your door, and when you shut the door, the gimmick stays there, and then Fred's inside the door, being Fred, which sometimes he's inappropriate, sometimes he's goofy. Well, more times he's goofy. And I am the master of useless knowledge. Okay, so I'll give you a heads up on that too, my brother. What do you think?
I don't know you well enough to know that you're the master of useless knowledge.
Useless knowledge. That's what my wife tells me all the time.
Yeah, thank you for the heads up on that. I guess we'll find out. But let's talk about, I guess you're married to Dusty's sister then?
No, that's my first wife. No, not his sister. His wife's sister. Okay. There's a whole big family there. And his, my ex-father-in-law, okay, there's half sisters and full sisters, and they all got the same mom, but there's a couple of different dads in the picture, but and there's kids and stuff, but that's Michelle, his wife, his second wife. Okay, that's Cody's mom. All right, because Dustin was the first wife. That's his mom. She just passed, unfortunately. A really good woman too. But yeah, they're sisters.
So what's it like being brother-in-laws to Sag and Dusty Rhodes, two crazy characters? Sags is known for mostly, I guess these days, for beating up Ken Shamrock and also his antics with Knobs. And Dusty's a legendary character in this business now, and his son might be the next WWE champion.
Oh yeah, and Cody, first of all, he was a great amateur wrestler when they lived in Georgia, and I mean, just tremendous as far as amateur wrestling goes. And he is really came out of his shell. His Dustin, another guy that's just phenomenal. I'm saying a great talent, and smart and just a good-hearted guy. But the business is hard on a lot of people, and he went through some low times, but he's doing good, very, very well now. And he's always been an accomplished wrestler. And Cody, it goes without saying, he's versatile. He's intelligent. He can talk when he gets in front of that camera. Very outgoing, very good with fans, whether they love him or hate him, depending on the angles that are run. But a very, very good guy. And Sags, in the past, when I was married to my first wife, the only thing that was funny was holidays, when all of us would get together. You know what I'm saying? When we weren't in a road situation,
Did it help you with employment over the years, having those type of connections?
I don't think as much. I'm sure that, I worked when Dusty had Florida Championship Wrestling there in Florida. When I came down there, that's at the end. At the end, there was Steve Kern, Gordon Soley was there, Mike Graham, and I had the opportunity. And that's before I took my first trip overseas to Graz, Austria. We did a big show at the Tampa Fairgrounds. Drew incredible. I mean, Bam Bam was on the card. I mean, you had Terry Funk on the card. I mean, it was just a multitude of great other wrestlers there. And I feel that I've been blessed. The great Malenko's the guy that trained me, and he's trained a lot of other great wrestlers and that stuff. But I believe that, with Dusty, I'm sure that, he's helped me, behind the scenes and stuff like that. He was working with FCW when I was, when my son was in high school, he's always loved the business and he wanted to be a part of the business. And I told him all the, you always tell a friend or a family member, the nays and the hays of the business, the good points and the bad points. And I don't have to tell you, from being on the road and from wrestling all the years that you've put in, Hannibal, that the business is can be full of a lot of pitfalls and a lot of crap, because you're talking about a business of egos. It's the same as if you're an actor, or if you're a sports person, or if a comedian, whatever your work is. There's a normal job is going to be egos, and a lot of times people are cutthroat. A lot of people there's a lot of jealousy.
Yeah, and this is why I don't like when the federations call themselves families, because people will stab you in the back all the time in wrestling, and we've seen in WWE them cutting people like during the pandemic and so forth, even though they're making huge revenue, which is great that people are getting paid so much now, but it's not a family at all.
Yeah, but you know what, Hannibal, it's the same thing. You can't, they run angles in wrestling. And you can't, if you got a roster that's 100 or 150 people of talent that's getting paid every week, okay, how long can you afford to bleed? And then those same wrestlers, if they're not getting used in major angles and stuff like that, they don't feel they're in the equation. So wouldn't you be pissed off if that happened to you? You're sitting there, you're getting a check, but fuck, what's the deal? You know what I'm saying? You're not using me. I'm sitting
There's
here.
a lot of people in AEW doing that now.
Yeah, but you're seeing a lot of jumping back and forth in that. But there's only two big entities, okay? And if one of the entities, isn't that what happened in the Monday Night Wars when WCW pulled in all that talent from Vince, okay? And then they get giving them exorbitant salaries. How easy to have some, hey, they're paying me this much, man. You need to come down and be a part of this deal. Oh, it's awesome. You're going to love it. Oh, my God, we're not traveling as much. I mean, we're just doing TVs here and there and blah, 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 and we know that in the big scheme of things, in the big picture of things, a lot of things can be a load of bullshit. Am I right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind one of those $250,000 AEW contracts to wrestle 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Jake the Snake is under a good deal, I think. I don't think they hardly use him anymore.
I don't, I haven't seen Jake in a long time. I've seen he's doing the signings and that kind of stuff, but I don't know what kind of deal he has or stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have Legends deals, and that it's like being a taxi. You're waiting, and hopefully they'll use you here or there and keep you current and keep you in mind's eye and stuff like that. Because there's always a new generation of wrestling fans coming down the line.
Yes, indeed. Billy Graham is one of those guys that had a Legends deal. I think I heard you mention you crossed paths with him or were a fan of him in your earlier years.
When I was young, from when I was when he came down to Florida, because it was territories then. I'm like, and I never really met him, okay, other than watching him on TV. But we were just talking about that movie, 365 Days or whatever it is. I watched that, and I really enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I called Barry Horowitz up on, and I told him, I says, brother, you need to watch this, because Barry lives down there when I was in St. Petersburg. And he's like, I says, he asked me the name, and I says, I think it's 365 days. I'm not positive, but I
think it's 350 days, because they say you have 15 days off or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I never worked less than 300 days for about the whole 30 years I was in the business actively, but when I heard him do a promo, I was like astonished at how articulate and, and how he came across, what I'm saying? The setting in his home, and he's sitting there and, and answering these questions and that, and talking about the business. And, it was just very, I wished I would have had a chance to meet him in person, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they should have done something with him like they did with Dusty, to help the younger kids getting into the business, because he was still good at promos, as you said, right up until a few years ago. Now his health is really going down, though, unfortunately.
He's having problems with his heart and that stuff, and really sad, because like you say, he's such a talent. His promos were on par to me. Like, he was like, with Dusty and that. There was a few guys in the business. That's why managers came about, not to steal the show, but, if guys weren't capable of, really coming across, and, they, or depending on how wild and crazy the gimmick was, what I'm saying? But here's a man that, he has the body, he has the ability, and he has the mind, to cut those kind of promos. I mean, Dusty, I loved watching him in that stuff. And see, back when I first started in the business, Malenko, he was like a second dad. Okay. All of us are very, very close. All the guys that came through the school and that, most of the guys are close. And, there was Dean, there was Joe Malenko, and, they were great guys and very talented and just amazing. And Malenko himself was a great orator, a good on the stick too, when he managed also, and good friends with Carl Gotch. I got to meet Carl Gotch through him, and I'm German and Austrian and Hungarian on my dad's side, and first time I went overseas, I worked in Graz, Austria with Big Otto Vance. And that was just amazing that, I was first time anywhere outside the country. But anyway,
huge crowds there, right? I've seen the clips. They were filling like WWE size arenas for the matches against Otto.
Hey, brother, they would work 30 days, 40 days in a row, every single day, like these hockey arenas, sell them out. I'd never seen anything. And they work, they do catch there. So they would wrestle in rounds, like boxing. And they would have the big parade every night. All the competitors would walk around, come out to the music and and there was guys from all over. There was guys from UK, Ireland, England, Giant Haystacks was there when I was there. I was only there for 10 days, but they would live in a motor park, like a campground. But they'd be there wrestling, every single day, 30 to 40 days straight. Then they would move on to the next town because they worked in Austria and they worked in Germany, and he promoted. And they treated you like gold. The guys, guys worked together and everything. It was amazing. It was a great experience, especially going overseas for the first time and seeing that. And Otto was just tremendous. And his son was wonderful.
I've heard you say that Bruiser Brody's death really affected you because he advised you early on. What territory would that have been in? And could you share some of the memories of him?
Well, the old Southwest territories where, I broke, that was really my legitimately first territory. And Mr. Blanchard had sold that to a guy named Fred Barron, and it became Texas All-Star Wrestling. And there was such a great variety of talent, but they would use Brody. He was doing matches with Mark Lewin there in that area, because he was working mainly out of Dallas and then going to Japan and doing the shots, NWA all over the country and, international also. And, I got a chance to talk with him several times when we were, in the locker room, he talked to me and that stuff. And, he was like, one of these days you're going to go to Japan. He goes, when you go there, you got to kick ass. He says, don't give anybody, he says, the main eventer guys that you would probably eventually work with, okay, they work American style like we work, but, you don't want to beat the crap out of them, but you don't want to give an opportunity to a younger guy, because it's how it is. It's, you're working your way up into the company. These young boys will try you when you get in that ring. So you have to throw any of that out the window and take care of yourself, kid. He said, but I mean, he talked to me like that. And I thought, for me, first of all, he was just such a legend, and, I watched him a lot also when I was younger, and I'm like, he's just fucking amazing, and I'm like, and for him to take the time to be able to talk to me and everything. But then again, I was talking to Nick earlier. I says, when I worked there in San Antonio, it was my first territory, first time away from home kind of deal, away from the house and work and doing this full time. And Malenko got me booked out there. And I was like, it was just a great experience. There was so many good people. There were young guys there. It was a great environment. There was a young Shawn Michaels was there. Jose Lothario that trained him was there. I think before he came there, I think Shawn was in what do you call it?
Mid-South, I think.
Maybe Mid-South. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Then he came there. Nick Kaninsky was there. Gene Kaninsky's son. The other son worked up in Dallas, Kelly. And you had, pile driver Bob Sweetan, but you also had luchadors that would come in and out for there, Angel Blanco Jr., El Fantasmo. There was Black Gordman was there. I mean, it was, and Tom Jones came there from Oregon. I mean, there was just a ton of talent that came in and out. I went through Buck Robley was the booker when they pulled me in. I was there with him. Then Chavo Guerrero became the booker there. And then I went to Jonathan Boyd came in. He used to be the flag waver, the original, I think, with the sheep herders, and that's why. But before the sheep herders left, I got a chance to meet with those guys for a brief, and they were just awesome. But I loved them because they were the bloodiest, nastiest. I always tease Luke about it. I says, then they turned you into the Bushwhackers, the polar opposite, you know what I'm saying? But they got over, I mean, they were tremendous. And you're talking about guys that have been working since the 60s, and that's why I always love talking to Luke. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm friends with Luke too, because when I wrestled in Puerto Rico, he was the booker.
Yeah.
He actually gave me the name Hannibal when I wrestled. So he's a great guy. Great mind. Another guy you worked with that went on to be a world champion, I guess, was DDP, was managing you in Florida.
Oh, yeah, him and Sir Oliver Humperdinck, kind of like the same time in Florida when I was working there for that's a little further down the road, but that's before I came to WWF, and but he was just amazing. We did great promos together. He was there. I mean, it worked good. He's a very talented, very smart. Well, obviously, from all the self-promoting he's done and everything. Because initially, when I met him and when he was working with me there, he was down in Fort Myers. He works at a nightclub there, doing all their promotions and stuff. For the nightclub they worked in, and so I mean, just sharp as a tack, very hungry. Loved the business. Loved Dusty. I mean, very, very much so. Stick with Dusty forever. So I mean, he's just a tremendous guy. Good self-promoter, and very talented.
I'm not sure if you wrestled Scott Hall in Florida or later on in WWE, but how were those matches, and how did you get along with him outside the ring?
Oh, they were good. I never had a problem with Scott outside the ring. Scott was a great guy. He wasn't no different than most of all the other guys. I don't got to tell you, Hannibal, when you get that much testosterone and you're on the road more than you see your family, okay, stuff happens. There's the ribs, how severe the ribs sometimes are different. But Scott was a great guy. He was a good guy that had some issues, that caught up with him and everything. And he was a great loss to pro wrestling. He was very talented, he was very, him and all the guys part of that Minnesota clique up there. I mean, we're very, very close. You know what I'm saying? Kurt Hennig, him were almost like inseparable a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people say they're not as hard as they were been talking about him, but he's a good guy, man. He's a very, very good guy. Just sometimes, shit happens on the road and you're affected by outside forces.
And as far as signing WWE with WWE, who recruited you there? And I understand you were also being courted by WCW around the same time, so you had the choice of both companies.
Well, I got called into the office in Tampa when I came back from being in Austria. I was there for 10 days. I worked with Ottawa, was the big blow-off deal and that. And then I came back. They called me up. I came by to say hi to everybody. And they said, hey, while you were gone, we got a couple of phone calls. And I go, oh, yeah? Who? He goes, well, I think it was Kevin Sullivan had called from the office up there in WCW. And then office call from WWF. And they wanted to talk. They asked about, they were interested in me. They told them. And they sat down and talked to me like, that's how close we were in that office, and all of them sat and talked to me, we're not going to say pro or con for anybody, you make the best decision, what's good for you, what you feel like, but these people are interested in you. And we'd like to see, how you feel about, who would you like to go talk to and work with, and no disrespect to WCW. I gladly would have went there to work. My biggest fear was feeling that I was mature enough and in the ring and that I could come forward with something that they would like, enjoy, or consider me good to be as part of the talent there. And so I says, but I've always wanted to go to WWE ever since I broke in the business and this, and watched it and everything. Vince had pulled every great champion from every territory, up there to be on his roster. And I think, and I'm like, I knew back then, people were sending them tapes, both companies, left and right. They probably got 40, 50, 60 tapes from independents working out, that are wrestling or working in other parts of the world and the country, and so I'm like, if I could make it up there, if they like me, and showed an interest in me, could I do, I hope I could do this, I wouldn't want to be like, oh, you get thrown back, it's, get thrown back and, beat myself up forever. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do his best every night that I'm in that ring, and working with my opponents, trying not to hurt them, all that, you as well as anybody knows that, when I first got in there and went out, I was pretty much a crowbar, because I was a power lifter and did a little bit of amateur wrestling, when I was playing football in high school and that stuff. But when you get out there with these guys that are, all I can tell you is our ring generals is the best description. From the guy that's working the bottom all the way to the top, they're all ring generals. Great talents, and it's one of those deals that I went up there. I almost had a Shockmaster moment when I came through. I went to pull me up to go to TV at Niagara Falls, okay, on the American side. And I walked through and they had a makeshift dressing room because of the way the building was configured, and There was a curtain on aluminum rods that ran the whole length of one section of the building. So they go, that's where you go, is the dressing room. And after I introduced myself and said who I was and everything, they sent me a ticket and I flew up. And anyway, I'm like, walk through, pulling my bag behind me. It catches on the drapes, and the stanchions start to fall. I quickly grab them before they could come over, and I'm like, it's like I tell everybody all the time, the Shockmaster was a bad gimmick, to do, and it happened to me, and I'm like, but everybody has a Shockmaster moment, at least a minimum of one. I've seen the top professionals have Shockmaster moments, from somebody jumping into the ring, catching their toes on the top rope and falling flat on their face. And some of them are consummate professionals, but even some of the angles and gimmicks that they've done in the business.
There's been two in WWE recently. Uncle Howdy missing the stage dive in his debut move.
Yeah.
And then Big Money, or Top Dollar, I think his name,
yeah,
did a dive. But you know what the dumbest thing about it was? I think even worse than him missing the dive, I don't know if you saw it, but all 6 wrestlers that were supposed to catch him took the bump from a dive where he got his foot caught.
Oh my God.
Yeah. His foot were caught in the rope, so he didn't touch any of them, but they're so used to.
And they all took the bump.
Yeah.
The invisible bump.
Yeah. So that was, at least your dive, at least your thing didn't break any kayfabe. But when you're talking about almost knocking down the dressing room curtain.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been, there was still kayfabe then. So that would have been a big deal.
Big time. Yeah. And breaking kayfabe in front of the top of the top. Oh my God. How would you live that down? You know what I'm saying? Having a Shockmaster moment, but everybody has one. They don't want to admit to it, but they do. And I've been to a lot, when you do the math, 30 years around the business, 300 days a year, you do the math. How many people have I worked in front of? How many people I've worked with? They ask you got fans that ask you, what's your favorite match? Or who is your favorite guy to work with? I like working with them all, some are easy, some are not, but it's part of the business. What they tell you, kid, if you can't take a potato, maybe you shouldn't be in a different profession.
Yeah, that's definitely true. As far as your debut, I don't know if it was your dark matches or your debut, but you had 3 matches that definitely weren't televised with Slick managing you as the big steel man. Was that a gimmick they gave you to test out or something?
No, that's what I've been wrestling as in Florida. The big steel man. Matter of fact, it's in the encyclopedias. 3 of the encyclopedias is big. It's big man steel. And I go, this is a typo. I was the big steel man. But I mean that was given to me when I wrestled in Florida. I came from Tennessee where I wrestled as Big Bubba up there, and I was Bubba with Texas All Star. Okay. And because that was like, I came out there originally when they started and they switched companies. I came out there as the Terminator, because after the Terminator movie, it had the black tank top with dark glasses and blah, 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 blah. There's been several Terminators through the years. Matter of fact, Animal's youngest brother, that's a commercial artist now. He was working with us. He was there with us. And then he had kept that Terminator gimmick. He worked that, and they go, Fred Barron called me in the office. He goes, here in Texas, Bubba is like a term of endearment. In other words, like your buddy. Hey, Bubba, you want to go get a drink? Hey, Bubba, want to go out to the restaurant tonight? What's you and the wife doing, Bubba? And that was like something that everybody in that area of the country could relate to, that kind of character. Kind of blue collar, working every day, 9 to 5 kind of guy. And like I said, term of endearment. And I wrestled as Bubba, and had a Jeep and all that stuff, and did promos. I had 32 Ford hot rod that I did some promo shots with and everything, with the hot rod flames and everything. And then from there, like I said, the last one I was with was Jonathan Boyd, and he booked me out to Tennessee, and I worked with Jarrett and Lawler. Back then they worked half a year with was Jarrett, half a year was Lawler. So he worked under two different entities. But yeah, when I came, when I went to Florida, it was Big Steel Man. You know, it was blue collar. I had that. Matter of fact, the original helmet I still have was from the head guy in Florida for the Steelworkers Union. Had given it to me from a friend of mine. He gave it to a friend, and they gave it to me to use, and I wore it on TV and that. When then Dallas Page was my manager. You know, we did venues, stuff in the ring, a whole 9 yards. So when I came up there, the first, I don't know, 6 months or whatever, it was that until they came up with the gimmick, with the tugboat gimmick. That, you know, they called me in the office and that. And I'm immature and I'm a kid and I still watch cartoons and I collect toys and play with toys and love old cars and stuff like that. But they call me in the office. They go, we've got this character. We want to see if you're interested, because they'll give you the character. It's up to you to get that character over. Okay. And they go, we're thinking about this sailor gimmick. And, you know, he'll be called Tugboat. You know, and you wear the Dixie cap on your head, you know, the sailor's hat like Popeye wore and that. I says, let me get this straight. You want me to be, it was a babyface gimmick. It says, you want me to be the cross between Popeye and Brutus rolled into one package. And they go, hey, that's a good, you know, a good scenario. I'm on board, brother. I says, you know, I love it. I'll be happy, you know, and I feel that it got over, you know, the kids loved it, you know, toot, you know, the whole 9 yards. And I had fun with it. Just like everything. I tried to have as much fun and put as much love into a gimmick as possible, because, you know, I grew up a wrestling fan, 8, 9 years old. I watched Florida. I was born and raised in Miami, watched Florida Championship Wrestling, watched all the cool guys. And I went to my first live match. I was telling the guys tonight at, you know, in Miami Beach Convention Center, where they filmed the Jackie Gleason show back in the day. Okay, I was like 16, 17 years old, right before I graduated from high school. I went with some of the wrestling buddies that were there with me and guys that played football with me. Went there, and one of the first guys that I seen by the curtain where the boys come out is the Briscoes, Jack and Jerry, watching the matches, just like every person should do that's working in the business. Watch all the matches. You know what I'm saying? And back then, you better not, it's not like some places, I ain't going to mention any names, where you take some guy's finish and use it for a high swat. You know, that used to be a big no-no. You're talking about kayfabe. My brother, Hannibal. Big no-no.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, I was a kid for Tugboat. So for the people that don't remember it, that was probably your most over character that you did. I remember seeing you here in Ottawa at a house show.
Yeah.
And everybody was going nuts for it. And they paired you with Hulk Hogan to help get you over right away. What's going through your mind when they're telling you about this? At one of the peaks of Hulk Hogan's career, it was just starting to go down a bit, but he was still at the top of his game. And here you are going to be his friend.
I'm waiting at the gorilla position, and I had to pee sometimes 3 or 4 times before I ever go out there. I was so nervous. But once I went through the curtain, and once I was out there with the people and listened to the people, because Hogan was over, you know, and really and truly, Hogan is still over. I mean, and, you know, he's a human being, and, you know, they got the ups, the downs, and they do everything sideways. I mean, but it was, you know, look at how many people, not just me, how many people that he touched in the business. And, you know, just the association, it just blew up above and beyond what they were normally getting, you know what I'm saying, by being part of that, you know, Hogan's wagon train. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was over, son of a gun. I enjoyed it. You know, he wasn't a scientific wrestler, true, but what he did and all that. And when they brought him in, You know what I'm saying? He worked he's worked all around, and then they did that Rocky movie, and kept him on the down low, and then boom, brought him in, and with Classy Freddie Blassie is his manager, and he was a beast. He was a beast, brother. You know what I'm saying? And he could cut a promo, to the best of them, and got over.
Yeah. So, what was your relationship like with him? Because we always hear that you were like one of his buddies. So I assume that you were friends with him behind the scenes
I was
too.
good, but I'm not. We were friends, and he's always been respectful, and that, and I mean, some guys, I'm not the kind of guy that goes, hangs out, and I don't want to say a Klingon or whatever else, you pick and choose your friends, but that's just me, but I love the guy a lot. I like what all the things and stuff like that. Has he made some bad choices in his life? Yeah, sure. Not unlike, I'm sure you've made some bad choices. I know that I have made some bad choices in my life. I was the naughty kid from grade school up. What do you call it? They didn't have no ADD or Adderall or whatever the crap there was.
Yeah.
You
The more famous you are, the more people are going to know about
Oh,
it and comment on it. Sadly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the beast. That goes back to that jealousy thing, and it's you got the group that smile to your face and pat you on the back, but make sure the second time they pat you on the back, there's not a knife in your back. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of pick and choose. I mean, I was nice to everybody, shook everybody's hand when they came in, but I pick, my friends, if I could count them on my hand, my close friends, other than my wife, okay, she is my best friend, that's it. But from the business, you know what I'm saying? It's the nature of the business, brother. You be cordial with everybody in that, but everybody has their own bag, I've never drank, I only liquor I've ever had in my life is when I was probably from having a beer with my dad at 16, 17 years old after we cut the grass and shit. And, and I'd go out to clubs and stuff like that, but I didn't drink. I didn't, do any drugs and stuff like that. It just wasn't my gimmick, man. I grew up in Miami, seeing a lot of guys' lives. A lot worse things happen to a lot of people. Some of my best friends that I love to this day, and I've done some stuff and made mistakes in my life. And that's just me. You don't walk in my shoes, so you don't know what I am all about, or where I'm coming from. But like you say, if you're you're in the light, people are going to take and go in there and try and go into the core and find out all the dirt that they can find. That's everybody's writing books. Everybody writes books, and they're going to be one of my best buddies, John Crowler. He just did the Sheep Herders books and that. He's a great guy. Great writer. He's an attorney. And, but you know what? Uh-oh, we're gone. I'm lost here.
Oh, with us?
What?
No, my screen, you went dark.
Oh,
Hold on.
Touch anything. I know you can blame it on me. Fred did it.
yeah.
I get that all the time from my grandkids. But it's
Oh, sorry. No, finish what you were going to say.
I'm losing track here. But I mean, everybody's going to go after you, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's, don't cry over it. If you're out there, you're in the public eye, you're guilty of your sins, no matter if you change and stuff like that. Everybody picks their poison, some people become ultra religious after a life of, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but like I was saying before, my friend John, now I remember where I was at. Okay. He goes, you should write a book, man. You should write a book. He's been on me in that. And he does a lot of comic books and stuff also. And I'm like, this is the deal, brother. The stuff that the fans want and that marks want to find out about is all the dirt. That's all they ever put out there is dirt. Not very, very, very seldom do you hear any good stuff. I mean, it'd have to be called Behind the Curtain and Under the Mat, a book of dirt and secrets. Do you think that's fair to people's families? Okay, those guys may have done some things in their life or did this or did that, but they have children now, they have grandchildren, they're older, and I mean, some people are really miserable, but you can pick and choose who you're married to and who you hang out with, and change the way things are. But, that's just how people are, though. That's why the Kardashians are big sellers, and all these different programs like that, do so well because people want to know dirt, and they want to, being famous for not being famous.
There's a couple fan questions that gave little tips here, so I'll throw them in. Someone wants to know if you have any Vader stories from Japan.
Not from Japan. I worked with him and here in the States and stuff like that, and he was a good guy. And he gets a lot of ruckus for things that he's done, and I have seen some things that in the past that he was could have been a little hot-headed and stuff like that, but always was very professional to me, always very nice to me. And I mean, that's pretty much it that I could say about him. But for Japan, he worked for a different office. I worked with him than I did.
There's another fan on here is wondering if there's ever any plans to win the WWE title. It certainly looked like when you threw Hogan out of that battle royal on Saturday Night Main Event, there could have been a feud over the title at one point. I
think there could, but they wanted to think they used that more for the swap to going from Tugboat to Typhoon, the natural disasters. There was the match also with the Bushwhackers after I think that was after that, where I turn on, there's still people that hate me for turning on the Bushwhackers. Okay. All right. They still, I can't believe you were such an ass. Those guys are great, man. I tease Luke about it. I says, "Oh, Luke, I'm a bad man."
And of course, I heard you tell a story on another podcast that you spent like the last week on the road with Kerry Von Erich for about 10 days.
Yeah, we were up in
New England.
Yeah, we were up in New England, that stuff. He went, we were training a little, we go to the gym together and all that stuff, and we roomed together and everything. Kerry was a very, very nice guy. Okay. And when all that happened, we finished the tour, and he went home. We're all before TV the next, coming week when we came in, 2 or 3 days. I mean, you only go home for a few days. But I got back to TV, and then I didn't see him and that stuff. And I was like, he's usually there, and and we talk and stuff. And along with certain guys, he was just a good guy. I liked him a lot. And then I heard that, and man, it just broke my heart. I just don't understand why or how, I mean, all the trauma that he had gone through in his life, and he was such a talented guy. It's such a good wrestler, but I mean, there was a lot of, look at all the stuff that did happen with the family and that stuff. I mean, it's really sad, I mean, yeah, it really bothered me. I mean, we were having some good, when we were on the road together, that's the most time I ever spent around him, really. And he was such a great guy because he was traveling with us. I think Alundra Blaze was with us. I forgot, somebody else was in the car with us. But we were 10 days, mostly in that New England area. A few days outside there when we flew up there, and we did Boston, all that, and did smaller towns up there, New England.
And Dino Bravo, you worked with him too, and he ended up getting shot like 17
times.
Oh man,
I couldn't believe that either, and Dino was awesome, man. He was a really good guy. I didn't know all that stuff and everything. Wasn't that privileged, all I know was the man that traveled the road with us and all that stuff. I mean, all the guys from the Montreal territory knew all that. Gino Brito, all those guys, You know, I'm sure that the Rougeaus, you know, because that's a very close knit family in, you know, in the Montreal area, all the wrestling and that. And, you know, but he was a great man. I mean, he was a great wrestler, great personality and all that stuff, you know, and it's just sad, you know, and his children had to go on without him and that stuff. And the way it happened, and, you know, unbelievable.
And as far as your matches with The Undertaker, a lot of people probably haven't heard that Tugboat and The Undertaker had a bunch of matches shortly after Undertaker debuted.
Yeah, right when he came in, I had some of his first matches, and wow, what a great, you know. And he's like, you know, Vince was watering and fertilizing that plant. He got better and better. I thought he had a great gimmick. When I heard that Undertaker gimmick, I'm like, you know, it's straight. I'm a comic book guy too, and I used to read a lot of those horror type comics also, and when I seen that, it reminded me of some of the comics that, you know, death comics and stuff like that. That you know, he was like a character out of one of those books, and there's just so much, and he did so much with that gimmick, you know, and you know, truly a talented guy that he just grew and grew and grew and became the legend that he is. You know, he's just tremendous.
And of course, your tag team championship team with Earthquake, who's from Canada too, former
Oh,
alternate for the Olympics, and I believe he was national champion.
yeah, he was undefeated as sumo, wrestled for LSU here in the States, you know. But he's truly, when they told me that was I had just saw the 2-up for a Tugboat figure. Okay, I just did a photo shoot in Rhode Island before TV, and I seen a T-shirt they were going to come out with that they'd sent me, and I did a photo shoot, and then I got to see the Hasbro. This doll's going to come out, this action figure. I'm like, oh my God, I was so on fire. I called my wife. I'm like, oh honey, blah 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 blah, blah. I'm telling the whole deal, and then I go to TV, and they call me in the office. You know, that's, you know, Quake had run his deal with Hogan and that stuff, and you know, the whole storyline and all that. They go, we had a great idea, you know. Pat was there, you know, Vince, you know, and a few other people, but mainly those guys. And we're talking about, you know, Hogan and Quake have run their path, and we're thinking about putting you two together. What do you think about that? And you know, I knew that Quake was so talented and incredible, you know, mechanic and, you know, good pro wrestler, you know, and they want to put me together with him. I'm like, you know, here's a guy that's my size, and he can move, and I can move pretty good. And I'm like, we could do stuff, you know, spots like smaller guys do, you know, as a team, and that stuff that's believable because we're big and we can manhandle people, even some of the bigger guys, you know, and you know, and it'd be awesome, you know. You know, it's just like people ask, you know, well, did you like being a babyface or did you like being a heel better? You know, just having the opportunity to work in the ring and work with the variety of people that I've had the opportunity to work with is in and itself a great honor. Okay. But to have the opportunity to be on both sides of the fence, you know, if you're a baby face, you wear the toes of your boots out first. If you're a heel, you wear your heels because you're looking up at the ceiling lights most of the time. But you know, I was excited. He was my brother from another mother. Okay, I mean, me and his family had made trips to Disney World when he came. That's down the line when we started working in that, you know, and then he wound up, you know, moving to Florida, but we broke bread together. We were on the road together. You know, a lot of times it was me, him, Jimmy. When we got together, you know, Earl Hebner and was a lot of times on the rides with us, depending on the towns and where we were booked and that, you know, and You know, it was just great. You know, it's good. You know, and Hannibal, I'm going to tell you that, you know, in the business, you know, tag teams are come and tag teams go, but you know, the personalities. Sometimes it makes it hard. You know, you may have a great one guy, and then you may have another guy that's into all kind of crap. But you got to remember that both the members of the team, that's why it's called a team, work together. Okay. And so the less headaches that the team has, okay, the better it is on the road. Remember, that's who you're on the road with, that 300 days or more a year. Okay. And it's a situation where we didn't have to worry about each other. We didn't have to worry about a guy being drunk or high or, you know, whatever, or having a shitty day. You know, even if he was so much like me that he didn't, you know, if he's having a hard time or bad, we talk about everything. To be honest with you, we were on the road. We were very, very close. And I miss him a lot to this day. I miss him a lot. You know, when he got the cancer, you know, I hated to hear that. I hated to hear that. And then it went away when he moved to Houston at one point because they had a great cancer place there. And then right before his stepson was going to get married, they were going to have the wedding in Orlando. He gave me a call. He says, "It's back, Fred." And I hated to hear that. You know, my dad had 3 bouts with cancer, among things. But yeah, I couldn't have asked, and it made me, you know, made me the happiest, I think, of all the guys I ever was with in the business. And I loved Goliath. He was a great guy when I tagged in Tennessee and that stuff. And I've worked and tagged with a lot of great guys, and I love them all. Okay, I'll never speak ill of the dead or the living either, you know. But I miss him a lot to this day. It was like a piece of me was gone, even when we were not working together. You know, it hit home.
He's kind of famous now for this Japanese video where it looks like a guy gets a little bit stiff with him. Doesn't look like a full shoot or anything, but he ends up grabbing him in like a
That's
single.
Katal. That's
Yeah.
Katal.
Yeah, he was in WrestleMania 7 or something too, right?
Yeah, Katal. He was with Inoki. I mean, not Inoki, but Tenru. But I worked with him over in Japan, and he kicked 2 of my teeth out, and I threw him off to the floor. Back in the day, he was black belt in judo. He was champion and sumo. Back in the day, big boy.
Just trying to make a name for himself, I guess.
Well, you know, and that's after with Quake, I spit the teeth out of my mouth to the floor, and his eyes got like, oh no, you know. But you know, and I'm the least to be that way. I mean, I'm not, you know. I have a temper, like everybody has a temper at some boiling point, but it's not something that I bring to the ring. If I had something, if there was that kind of issue, I keep it to myself. You know, it's not my deal. You know, it proves nothing. It does nothing. You know, that was like, you know, doing that way was a little bit like a receipt. You know, I didn't hurt him, but it, you know, never had to worry about that again.
Did New Japan or All Japan at least pay for your teeth or whatever company?
Oh, no. It wasn't what I came over there because when Vince was working with Tenro in War.
Okay.
Yeah, War, Wrestling and Romance. And I loved Tenro. He was a good guy. And all the people that were associated with that. Sato brought a lot of the guys over and helped book too there for that.
So what made you jump to WCW? Because I know Earthquake left, but you were still going as a singles star for a while.
Well, I think that came further down the road because what took me away from Quake is I was opening 2 nightclubs down in Key West. I invested a whole lot of money and stuff because I'm thinking long term about having something to fall onto when I want to leave the business. You know, I had young children, very young children, and 3 of them. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And I was very familiar with that business. And I brought my brother-in-law's, one of my brother-in-laws, my wife's that was married to her brother into the business. He'd been around the business and worked with his dad, who's been in the restaurant and nightclub business for over 50 years, Bobby Rodriguez. Anyway, I opened that. I was in the midst of getting it finished in that, and my brother-in-law had came up to Tampa. Okay, spent some time up there for a few days with his wife, and they went to a sporting event in Tampa. He and his buddy had went to a sporting event, stopped at a 7-Eleven to get a bite to eat or something to drink, and he went on the phone on a phone and was talking to his wife. When his friend come out, there was a bunch of kids, about 6 or 8 of them, and they were there, and they ranged. The oldest one was 18, the youngest, were like 12 or 13. Okay, and they were all together, hanging outside. And the guy's vehicle was his truck or whatever it was there, and he's on the phone. They came out and started messing with my brother-in-law's friend. Okay, and they started, the big fight, and all the talk and smack and shit like that. They're kids. And my brother-in-law goes running over there about the time that the oldest kid pulls a pistol out of his truck and shoots a gun, I guess, to scare them. Winds up cutting, he hits my brother-in-law and cuts the main artery going into the heart, and he dropped dead on the floor right there outside this 7-Eleven. And the rest is history. He was going to work. He was going to, when I was on the road, he would be down there, and then I would fly directly into Key West on my days off to be, to promote and do all that stuff down there. I had family that was down there also in Key West. But that's what took me out. When that happened, I had to go to event, and it pulled me away from the deal there. And I worked. He says, "Well, you need to work these days, And they were mostly single matches and stuff. They didn't finish out the calendar dates, and that was that. I had to go, and I left my family up in Tampa at our house up there, and I was down there staying at a house that my father-in-law had down there. That and I was living down there. I was putting anywhere from 12 to 16-hour days in, almost 7 days a week down there working on my business, trying to take in, I couldn't just let it go. I had a whole lot of money invested, and that's what took me out of there. And then eventually when I got things put together, I went up there to work with WCW that, and then I was doing some independence and a couple of things overseas.
Now, with all the money that WCW had, were you surprised for the Shockmaster helmet that they didn't put more effort into it? Because I understand it was like women's stockings covering the eyes and stuff.
Yeah, but it was the Stormtroopers. Initially, it didn't have anything there, so the glitter was coming in through the eye holes when they had me do the initial fitting. And so they took the secretary and had her pull off her pantyhose. They cut 2 patches out of those. So the little hole that I was looking at with the glitter coming in, that was to protect it from getting in my eyes, and doing damage. Well, it's good, but then you can't even see shadows. So it was like point and shoot. When I went through that wall, Mike Graham was the guy that gave me. They couldn't microphone the mask anyway, because all the mask was, because people ask, fans ask all the time. You go, well, how could you wrestle in that thing? How would you? It's not what it was for. It's defeating the purpose. What it's for is just to protect them from knowing my true identity. Like maybe they wouldn't be able to guess who I was, but they put that on me, and then I had one of the Awesome Kong's ring vest that they wore to the ring, and I came out with that, wearing that over the top. That's what they wanted me to wear out there, and it was just to go to do that promo, you know. And the original deal, which is this, they talk about the Super Shockmaster before they,
I saw you wrestle as the Super Shockmaster, by the
Yes.
way, for the fans that haven't seen. That was a good outfit. And
Yeah.
that gimmick could have got over, I think.
It was like it wasn't going to be like Glacier's type gimmick, but it was, like a comic book type character, cross between a lucha type, and, a comic book, superhero deal kind of look to it, you know what I'm saying? And it would hide, the top of it, my hair hang out, and then it was a chin type mask. And, it was pretty cool, I thought. But, those guys there, I think they were, it's when before they turned me to Uncle Fred. They worked the whole gimmick where Cody and his sister Teal and all the neighborhood kids are on the couch and they're watching TV and they go, "That looks like Uncle Fred," Cody says. That's when I became the, Shockmaster becomes Three Stooges #4.
What I don't understand,
Yes.
though, is it's easy to say now, like with the internet, that everyone knew, but they could have just changed your gimmick because no one saw your face. But every time they used you, I always hear the commentators making jokes about it, and they turned you into a joke. Whereas if they had just kind of changed your name and given you a fresh gimmick and not have to have the announcers bury you, you still could have got over, I think.
That would have been my feeling about the whole deal. I mean, crap happens. And when it's live TV, because that's what it was at Bash at the Beach, it was live. It wasn't a taped show where, like in the past, like when I worked for WWE, where WWF, they made the guy, if Vince comes out screaming out of the back room that he hated the match, going to put you on the third hour and you're going to redo it because they know that by the third hour, half the crowd is gone down. They move people, to the hard camera side, virtually, and they redo the match. And this is what I want, blah, 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 blah. And, but this here was live, and the wall I busted through is like a wall in your house. It had wood studs. I broke, I don't know, 3, 4, whatever wood studs. I did double axe handle it because you couldn't see what you were doing. But there was a board that went all the way across because the height of it was 5/8 sheetrock that they made the set up for Flair for the Gold, just like it would be in your house. And, but it was one-sided, just the rock on one side. But, there was a board just below my kneecap that because of elevated, the elevated extra height, so it would be flimsy and would be supportive and all that stuff. And next thing you know, bingo bango, I hit that, because my grand was the guy giving me a cue. He's like, "Fred, you're going to have to hit that son of a bitch hard to go through there." So I'm like, he says, "It's pyrotechnics, blah, 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 blah." I says, "Okay." I says, "Brother, I'm benching over 6. I says, I can knock this wall out." I said, "I busted holes in the wall of the house by accident." And he's like, "Okay." And I put that mask on. I was probably a half a foot or so from the wall. I put my hands above my head, double axe handle, and I busted through the wall. But because I hit it so hard, and with that piece being where my knee is, I became a teeter-totter. So I blew through the wall, fell down, and the helmet came off like a champagne cork. It's live. All I could think in my mind is turning your face to the wall and reaching to try and find that helmet as fast as possible because, somebody else is going to do the promo. So I wanted to get to my feet so it wouldn't totally screw the deal. I mean, it was bad enough, but I tried to manage it and try, I'm trying to
Wasn't
do
it at the Ocean's Front Center in Daytona Beach too?
Yeah.
So there was like 5,000 people there.
Oh yeah. And it was live though, live on,
Yeah.
Well, the Road Warriors were there. I mean, it was a who's who of talent. And I drove over from my house in Tampa. Excuse me.
There's a fan on here that's given a little tip and is wondering what it was like to work with Matt Bourne.
Matt's Evil Doink Matt is great to work with. Although I did do a signing, he had his grease paint on, and he gave me a big hug and smeared his grease paint into my white shirt. But that was Matt Bourne. You know, he was a loose cannon, come from up there in Portland, and a great amateur, a great pro. You know, but he was a loose cannon. There's no doubt. He made me laugh. I used to laugh at him all the time. You know, but
When
definitely, I mean. I love Ray Apollo, and I think he was a great Doink. But when you put Doink on there, oh no, the original Matt Bourne, but he really wasn't there very long. You know, Matt wasn't.
Yeah, he was by far the best.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Hannibal. The captain sent me over here to cut it out. So I'm
Look
the
at that.
Cabana boy.
That's the Cabana boy.
I take orders.
The
Toot,
Cabana
toot.
boy.
I
All right.
apologize.
Well,
He's gonna blow my whistle.
well, we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this one for sure. Thanks for joining us, and
I
we'll
hope it
leave
was
you.
okay, Hannibal.
Oh yeah, it was good. I see the Cabana boys bent over. That seems like a position that you.
But this is the only time I've been
He's
so
gonna blow-
in my life.
He's gonna blow his whistle.
All right, that's enough of this. Goodbye.